outside of the band that is responsible for making a great record for the record label. They're paying for them usually, and a lot of times if you just left it to the band to make a record, it might not work out very good because they're musicians, and musicians aren't always organized. So the producer is the guy that comes in and is the person looking outside at the band and wants to make them as good as they can of a record, get the best performances, best songs, pick the studio, and many other things, just depending on the specific project. So usually they need to be trained. Hopefully they're a musician of some type and can play, maybe sing, maybe they performed in bands when they were earlier in their career and got into producing later. So it definitely varies, and there's lots of different types of producers. There's not any, everybody's got their own style, but overall they are the person responsible for delivering the record to the label. And the label gave all this money and they need to deliver a good product, and that's the main thing of the producer. I wanted to go and learn from people that were big producers and engineers, so I started interning at studios and did whatever I could. Got into studios, and I interned in a couple studios in Minneapolis here and got my foot in the door and made coffee for people for a few years, and was putting up microphones and wrapping cords and cleaning bathrooms. And even though I'd already been making some records, I didn't have any issue with that because I would get to work with huge engineers and producers and people like Tommy LaPuma was like a big known industry guy, where I got to bring him coffee and watch what he did in the studio, and it was just amazing, and that's where you learn. And in some ways these days I think sometimes people miss out if they just have their little home studio and they never get out of there, because you're not able to learn from other people, and engineering and producing are thought of as like almost an apprenticeship, that you need to be there for years and watch people and steal their ideas and look and like, okay, that guy did that, but I didn't like how it worked, so I'm not going to do that, but ooh, that idea, I'm going to steal that. And that's what people do. And at the same time, when you work hard in a studio starting out, other people around you want to help you, and they'll show you things and show you what to do. So. As far as like just a day-to-day what a producer does, you know, it's just basically you're there at the beginning of the session, get everything going, and if you got your engineer that's by you, getting all the gear ready to go, making sure all the mics are happening. But it's just basically making the session flow, making sure that you're using that studio time wisely, not wasting time, or you know, getting things erased accidentally, or just recording something that has noise on it that's not usable. It's just really overseeing the whole recording process, and just everything has to be perfect, and the producer's there overseeing that, so it can be stressful sometimes, for sure. So but at the same time it's fun also, because you're making music. So a lot of times, even if a producer's there with a band and maybe not having a good day, we'll just probably have to think about look out the window and see some guy out shoveling snow, especially in Minnesota, like, okay, I could be doing a lot of worse things, so it's not too bad. So so producer is a good job to have, but tough. It's a tough one. You know, a band contacts you, or maybe a producer might see a band at a club, or somebody will recommend a band, or a label will contact a producer. So there are many different ways that a producer would get involved with making a record, but then basically it just usually starts with meeting the band. Just make sure there's a good vibe there. Everybody thinks they can work with each other, because it's pretty crucial that everybody has a good working relationship. There's definitely producers that make records with bands where they definitely don't love the producer per se, but they make a good record because they kick their butt a little bit and say, no, that sucked and we got to do this better. And in the end they love them, but sometimes there's some trials and tribulations that go on in making a record, no doubt, and I've have that happen, and that's where you need to get the band to trust you. So there's a lot of trust that goes on because they're putting their music in your hands, and sometimes you might be wanting to change things a little bit, and sometimes that freaks musicians out or bands out, or you're changing somebody's song. So that's part of what a producer does, is comes in and puts their thing on it, whatever that is, and hopefully make the band the best they can be.